What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Wealth Not Wait. I am your host, as always, Joseph Coizza, and on today's episode, we are talking about the culture of wealth. This comes from a video I seen by a doctor, and forgive me if I pronounce the name wrong. This video comes from a gentleman that I seen. He's a very distinguished gentleman from Africa. His name is Dr. Ugu Chukwu Omeugu. Again, forgive me if I pronounce that name wrong. I tried my best. It's obviously not my first language for it, but I wanted to make sure I got it right because this gentleman, I only watched the first 20-minute video and then a little bit of research subsequently. But Dr. Ugu is a gentleman who had polio as a child, and people would tell him that he couldn't do things, especially growing up in Africa and not having the same kind of systems, and there's a higher stigma than there is in the U.S., but in the U.S. there is, of course, still a stigma, of course, for people who are disabled, either physically, mentally, or what have you. And he's someone who they said that he couldn't go to school. They said, he couldn't play soccer. They said he couldn't wear football, as they call it. He could play football. He couldn't go on hiking trails. He wouldn't amount to anything. He's a gentleman who had polio as a child. They said he wouldn't amount to anything. He couldn't play football. He couldn't go to school. He couldn't do this, and he just essentially, be nothing is what they deemed him. But he took the initiative, and he stood outside by the gate of his house until somebody, kind of guided him to school. They tried to put him in disabled classes and disabled courses, and he goes, no. He goes, I'm not, you're not going to hold me to a lower standard. I'm going to, go out and I'm going to hold myself to this higher standard. They said he wouldn't play football. They said he couldn't do all this stuff. And then he made up mentally for what he couldn't do physically. He was able to calculate angles, he was able to figure stuff, he was able to get a good education, and he was able to give himself an opportunity. And when people seen, like, he walked up on stage with crutches, when people see crutches, he sees himself as a full person because he is a full person. And he has this mental capacity beyond what people would initially believe just looking on the outside. And he has a lot of these analogies and a lot of these stories that it really shows you it's just the culture of wealth and you as a person. If you believe you can do something, if you go out and give yourself the opportunity, you will have that opportunity. He stood by the gate of his house when everybody else was going to school, when they said he couldn't go to school. And eventually somebody came by and said, hey, they went and talked to his father, said, hey, I'll walk him to school. The analogy he creates is that if you go and you stand by the gate of your opportunity, somebody will come and help you. People would help carry his water bucket for when he had a shower. And they felt that then he owed them something. And he realized that, and he's just like, well, they do that, I'm going to give them this. And then people, would rush to help him because they think, oh, I'm going to get something in return. And then he had the power, where he couldn't score or play the goalie in football, otherwise known as soccer here in the U.S., he made up for that mentally. He, kind of set up. He became the coach and said, okay, you over here. And then he won the game by doing that. He wanted to be a millionaire, and then he became one. He guides Fortune 500 companies. Again, even being from the continent of Africa, where traditionally people feel is not as educated, not as advanced, not as smart, not as financially, strong as other continents, other countries. He became somebody who's well distinguished, and very wealthy, and he travels the world and does what he wants and lives life on his terms. People without physical disabilities still can't do. A lot of people can't live life on their terms. And even though he had this polio that affected him, he still went out and did what he wanted and made his own way. And that's the culture of wealth. If you feel you can't do something, you won't. Just like a quote from Will Smith, the man who believes that he can and the man that believes he can't are both usually right. That happens with wealth, that happens with, your weight, that happens with everything. If I believed I couldn't do it, kind of when I did way back when, before I made my big transformation and became the person I am now, if I believed I couldn't make that change, I did. And then one day I decided I could make that change. I'm going to do it. And then it happened. Once I connected it with myself, there was nothing stopping me other than me. Our fear isn't that we're not good, it's that we're powerful beyond our imagination. I'll put the exact quote, I know I butchered it. But that's the situation. With wealth, with anything, people see these problems. They don't see the snow through the trees. If you go and you're just like, oh, you're skiing, and then you say, oh, I'm worried about hitting the tree, I'm worried about hitting the tree, I'm worried about hitting the tree, you're going to hit the tree. You're focusing on the tree. But that's like an analogy is if you focus on the snow, okay, the snow is here. I know if I go through the snow, I'm not going to hit the tree. If you focus on the snow through the trees, you focus on the solution, not the problem, then you'll get to where you need to be. If you say that you can't because of your race, because of your gender, because of your ethnicity, because of whatever it is, you won't. You don't have to have that excuse. I understand you're probably set back comparably to other people, but people have gone through worse. Someone who's come from Africa, who had polio, who they said they wouldn't be educated, who had a lot of obstacles in his way, became more successful than most people. Most people in first world country who could go and are technically richer than a lot of other people in the world, and he became richer, he became more independent, he traveled, he lived life on his terms, and he's a very smart, distinguished gentleman. Again, doctor. And he was able to do that despite any setbacks he had, because he didn't look at them as setbacks, he looked at them as new solutions. There's not problems, there's only solutions. If you look at it, oh, woe is me, oh, woe is that, that's the culture. And that's what a lot of people grow up with, is the culture of wealth and where they feel it. A lot of people grow up with, the terminology of, oh, hey, I just need to make a quick flip. I need to do this. I just need to go out and make short-term money. If you work hard, you're a sucker. A lot of people grow up with that mentality, but that's not the case. Working hard, especially for something you love, especially for something that is going to make you successful, that's the best thing you can do. It's not just short-term game, it's long-term game. And that's what a lot of culture, that's what a lot of people, and something that really bothers me about our school system too, is they don't discuss that. They don't talk about that, because either one, people don't know it, or two, it's probably because then if everybody did, everybody would kind of push back and people wouldn't get what they want from your general masses. People need to realize that despite their cultural upbringing, despite whatever they were taught, despite their relationship with money or health or whatever it is, you have to go out and find the knowledge. And if you're watching this, you probably are finding the knowledge right now. You're making a conscious effort to find it. You're breaking whatever culture you were set up in, unless you were set up already in a great culture. And even still, you can push that further. A culture of wealth is what you grow up in, and then what you adapt. The culture of wealth is that wealth and opportunity will find the people who are looking for it. If you're not looking for it, if you're not actively searching for it, you won't find it. That's plain and simple. You have to go out and actively look for it. You have to go out and actively work for it. You have to believe that you can do it and then do something about it. And then the opportunity will find you. They say luck is preparation meeting opportunity. A great investment comes your way, you don't have any money, well, guess what? You screw. Oh, I don't have any money, and you just focus, I don't have any money, I can't do things. And then you just kind of sit there and pout them out, and then nothing gets better. Okay, everybody has problems. Next. That's the end of the day. You could pout, you could mope, you could stomp your feet all you want. You could say, why me? It can't be me. I can't do this. And then you'll be right, you can't. But if you say you can, if you, again, going to keep quoting the whole video, the ones who could believe they could change the world are the ones who usually do. You have to believe that you can, despite whatever culture you were taught. If you were taught that you can't, or even if you were taught you can, you have to act on it. If you're taught that you can't, you have to believe that you can, and then you have to act on it. That's something that this gentleman did here, and that's the culture of wealth. The culture of wealth wants to stay with wealth. If you have the culture of an abundance mindset, and yes, I will go out and I will do this. Yes, I can do this. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but yes, I will do it. I am capable of doing it. If you believe you can, and then act on it, everything else will follow. But despite whatever upbringing you had, especially in some lower socioeconomic cultures, people believe that they can't. You're taught that you can't. You're taught that the lottery or whatever it is, or just going and getting a job, or whatever it may be, is your only way out. You have options. You have opportunities. You just need to work towards them and believe that you can. That's the culture of wealth, not just the culture you were brought up in relating to wealth, relating to your health as well. But now the culture you create for yourself and you live in. The culture you build within your mind internally. That's the culture that really matters. Yes, I believe I can. And yes, I will do something to make it happen. And therefore, it will happen. I hope you guys like this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know below, what steps do you take to build a strong culture of wealth around you? Until next time. Peace.